Hi, my name is Fiza. I'm really happy to be here. I don't know what I'm doing in this panel, to be honest. My work is not related to feminist approaches or feminism as such, but nonetheless, I'm really happy to be here. And also, this is like a remnant of a past project from my PhD, like a few years ago. It's like something you leave in your PhD that like always stays in the back of your mind, like something you should have done or like you need to do. And I was really hoping someone else will do it, like someone else will like pick up the mantle, but like scholars of violence are like, I think, I mean, it can be really depressing. So I guess people don't really want to get into it. But also there's a question of academic freedom. I want to, oh yeah. For those of you who are not aware, let me just contextualize like very briefly. So in 2014, we had this Hindu Nationalist Party who came to power with Narendra Modi, who became the Prime Minister. He's still the Prime Minister of India. What mattered was not the outcome, but like the ideology of the party, which believes that India should be a Hindu nation for like Hindus, and then they've positioned themselves against Muslims. So there's a lot of like state politics and like a lot of like people making there as well. What was really interesting was and sad was like this really systematic intensification of vigilante violence against specific communities. So you have like Muslims and then Dalits, which are basically like really low in the caste hierarchy in India. And that's really like, I mean, caste is a really big thing in India. And so there was this rising form of violence, which was labeled as lynchings by a lot of like media outlets. I need to say that, I mean, because we are at the American University. I did not call it lynching. Uh, but it also gave rise to like a lot of like, one of the reasons for this vigilante violence and the rising vigilante groups was this idea of cow protection. I don't know if you're familiar, but like cows are supposed to be really holy for Hindus. It's a very funny and interesting thing. I can talk about it later if you want to know why. But yes, cow is holy. So, um, and then it's the idea is that it's the Muslims who consume beef and also Dalits. So they're considered, they have been constructed or narrativized as impure. So there was a lot of like, intensification of this kind of vigilante violence. Which was also structural, which kind of became structural in the sense that there was a lot of like campaigning by the Hindu nationalist group to ban cow slaughter in India. So what are lynchings? In my earlier work, I defined them as a decentralized form of extra-legal and spectacular violence with a justification coming from either the pretext of like protection of community or tradition. Again, this has been kind of borrowed from the American tradition, but like differed slightly. Again, like the politics of lynching is very contentious in US, and I am aware of it. I worked on that as well, but just want to throw that out. American University. So decentralized in the form that the violence was not organized from above. It was distributed. It distributed itself through communities, through local networks of religious and caste solidarity. It was spectacular in the sense that it had a very deliberate relationship to visibility. It demanded visibility. It was powerful because it had to be visible. And then the pretext, the cow protection and like few others, I mean, they concealed a deeper structural logic about which bodies are available for punishment and whose moral authority is being asserted. As I mentioned, lynching was very much a digital phenomena because all these acts of violence were filmed on mobile phones, often by perpetrators or by like the crowds or the mob like surrounding them. And they were heavily circulated, primarily via WhatsApp, because Indians are really, really big on WhatsApp. I mean, we might be the largest, like the consumers for them. And also, so this because WhatsApp is encrypted, it was difficult to archive, and it was organized through already consolidated social networks. So you would have like these family groups or neighborhood groups, political groups, caste groups, etc. So these videos already entered into these communities and kind of gained approval before they even became really mainstream. And they did become really mainstream. These videos were incredibly easy to find. Like you could see them on your like friends, family, WhatsApp, on social media platforms, YouTube. They were very, very accessible. And it helped that, I mean, the smartphones are really cheap. I mean, they were really cheap in India and really accessible as well. A lot of these videos were taken down subsequently, but that had to do with the platform logic and like, how much violence you can show, how much is acceptable, etc. And then a lot of pressure from the Indian government as well. But before we do that, just I think I have to talk very briefly about vigilantism as well. Daniel's work does talk about Johnson's definition, and he is a really good starting point. But I think there's a lot more to it. For instance, Kirsch and Grush talk about the relationship between vigilantism and state and how these are not two pure and discrete domains. Like the membrane between vigilantes and state is always like porous, and it's you can just play around with it. And I think in a lot of ways we see that contemporary as well. And vigilantes always share this like relational. They have this fundamentally relational thing with the state and the society as well. There's also this paradox that that vigilantes like supposedly like desire peace and order, and that their violence destroys. So like how vigilantes in India, like who committed these acts, they really believed, well largely, at least initially, that they were performing this great moral and civic function as they understood it. They were, in their own terms, upholding community order, protected sacred tradition, and punishing the transgression. Then, of course, we have digital vigilantism. Again, I have to talk about it because I think it's like I'm looking at it in a different way from a lot of other presentations here. So, I mean, Daniel's work, again, has been very helpful in like my understanding of DV. But I think there's also like some limitation in the sense, like, perhaps the first one would be contextual, in the sense that DV kind of operates on the terrain of doxing, or you have online pileups, like economic harm, etc., reputational harm. But what if the violence is not just metaphorical? What if it is physical, fatal, and like material, like at the same time? Like for instance, in India, and I know a lot of other places, people are being killed. Well, even in US now, people are being killed in public, in camera, or like on broad daylight. So that is happening. And this kind of violence thrives on visibility. As I said, it demands visibility. And perhaps another limitation that I think is like more of conceptual. So the dominant model of DV is built around the idea of exposure. So this revealing this hidden offense, maybe identifying a wrongdoer, making transgression visible to a larger public. But these videos, at least like if you see like these in Indian context, they're not exposing wrongdoing as much as like staging retribution, displaying punishment, and in a way also like performing the work of consolidating different identities, etc., and like and the logic of the political ontology of the state as well. But what I was really interested, I think like from the start, was to like look at the idea of aestheticization. Like why does like because these videos had a lot of like impact in like giving legitimacy to violence. They really like function like that well. Like and it when I started exploring the like lynchings, for me it was like, why is there such a widespread acceptance of violence like in a country like we're like not. I mean, violence was always part of like Indian life or like post-colonial life, I would say, but we never had this much like acceptability. So then I think the idea of aesthetics is really helpful, both as a methodological tool, but also as a political vocabulary. This is still half-baked. I'm still exploring and looking into it, but I'm looking at violent aesthetics in three related sense. So you have the first sense is more formal one, where the video is constructed as an object. So where is the camera position? How is the perpetrator acting? Like how are they acting? How are the victims being placed? Who's at the center of the image, etc. Then I'm looking at it at more of like the original sense of like the word aesthetics, which is basically like aesthesis, which is sense perception. So what is felt bodily before we can even process it cognitively. And then the third is from the perspective of Jacques Rancier's distribution of the sensible, which determines who is visible, audible, and intelligible within a given social order, and for whom, and how do we like give legitimacy to this visibility. So this is what makes aesthetics very political as well. So just for this presentation, I looked at like just 3 cases or 3 videos in depth because I always knew I wanted to look at it like really closely instead of like 5 minutes. Okay. So just I knew from the start, yeah, that I want like a very close look at these videos. For my earlier research, I looked at like hundreds of them. They were very, very depressing, very like violent. So for here, like I think yeah, a limited case would be better. Oh, and as I mentioned, like a lot of these videos were taken down when I went to like look for them this time. So I had to look at like just news clips basically, and not the entire videos, which were very easily available before. I didn't want to like put in any like violent scenes, except I mean just like maybe like these two. So I mean you can see in the first video, so there's crowds and the vigilantes surrounding like these bodies, and they are being punished. It gets bad. And on the other hand, you can't see the perpetrators, but you do see like crowds, and then like these are very public spaces. And then you see cow in the background because this case was this lynching was like cow related. So on one hand, you have the camera. So camera, like the filming of the video was doing a lot of like work in itself. You have this collective production, which is semi-organized. The violence was being as a covered, which was like deemed worthy of like different perspectives. Interestingly, the camera moved consistently towards moments of like peak violence rather than away from them. So the camera was not a recoiling witness. It like really like you could just see that the enjoyment of like the perpetrators and the witnesses as well. It kind of like worked as a moral document for the perpetrators and for the crowd. And even though like a lot of perpetrators did not address the camera, you could see from just their like comportment, like yeah, they are very much aware of like, okay, yeah, the camera is there. And then I also looked at like how the body was placed, the space, and the voice. I think because I don't have much time, so I think I can talk briefly about the spatial aspect. Oh, where is it? Okay, yes. So these assaults kind of took place in open, semi-public, everyday environments. So you had like roads and highways, open ground. So there were no hidden sites. As I said, this violence demanded visibility. So they are the spaces through which ordinary civic life moves. That publicness was not incidental to the video, but a part of the claim that the violence was making. That the mob and the vigilante is not merely hurting a person there. It was showing as well who is part of the public and public sphere and under what terms, and that was really important as well. How much time do you have?
So you have about 3 minutes.
Okay, okay. Uh, then voice was also interesting because a lot of these victims were made to like chant this like Hindu chant, which has been kind of taken over by the Hindu nationalists. It's just like if you hear that, you know, okay, this person is a Hindu nationalist. So like they would like publicly be forced to say this like this chant again and again just to prove like, okay, no, they are part of the, if not the part of the community in the sense of religious or communal terms, but at least part of the like the state community, because the violence was also like breaking down the lines between the state and the religion. There was also this aesthetic register of impunity, and I say that aesthetic register because you could just see like how much like there was almost this like festive environment, like people were celebrating. It was chaotic, but yes, but there was like this enjoyment, this jouissance, like they were really enjoying themselves, which is so depressing, but that's how it is. So before we even know before we even know the details of the persecution or even the political response, the video was already telling us something about the social power through this aesthetic register of impunity. It tells us who expects to act without consequences. Uh, okay, I'll just come here. So I think one thing that has happened is that these lynching videos were not isolated media objects, but like these concentrated instance of broader aestheticization of violence in India. I uh, I think I hypothesized earlier that like that just the state was testing and the vigilantes were testing how much impunity they can have. So it was just like crossing the line little by little by little by little. So in a way like that now, aestheticization of violence against like these specific communities is very, very normal. Like you have like these videos coming up like of like caste or like or religions or religious humiliation, like destroying of their homes and shrines, or even like police violence, and this entire spectacle of like Hindu nationalist has been like a spectacle of like humiliating the other while constructing themselves as a community. So in a way, I mean, I have to think through like this case. I'm also like, I mean, I was really wondering if it's just like vigilante violence gone or digital, or do we need to expand our framework of digital vigilantism just to consider like that these acts are very much prevalent now. And I think you see the current like videos coming from like US with ICE and like all that. So I mean, I think we really need to like expand our framework. But in a way, for now, I mean, because like visibility is also about punishment and who is being punished, who's allowed to be like punished, and mediation is very constituted to the act of punishment contemporarily, and also that aesthetics is political.